Chris, now it's the Warriors.
Yeah.
What do you think about the matchup overall here? What's going to be key?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a tough matchup. I mean, it's a championship pedigree team. You know, they're similar to us. They played their best basketball down the stretch and into the playoffs. You know, they're coming off of a really, really tough series, no doubt about it. But they showed what they're made of in that series. You know, they got us 3 times out of 4 this year. So, but we haven't played them with the new look roster. So yeah, a lot of things to contemplate coming in the series. It's going to be definitely a tough one for us.
Can you take much from the regular season, just given how different they are, and really you're playing much differently now too?
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can take from it. I think you know, they certainly hurt us in transition. That's going to be a big point of emphasis, I'm sure, for them as it is for us. You know, stylistically they're still pretty similar. Obviously, centers around Steph and Draymond, and that combination has been a handful for many years. But now they add Jimmy, who gives them just an added dimension. Not only feeds into their style of play, but also gives them things that they didn't have before, like foul drawing, ISO baskets on demand. You know, another closer. So I do think there's things you can take from the games in the regular season, though.
Do you want to push pace against a team that's been playing so much, or do you not let that guide your strategy?
I mean, we've been emphasizing pace for the last 40 games, and we did so in the last series. So absolutely, you want to try to push pace. It's still a quest for easy baskets, is however they might come, and you just got to be super disciplined in your shot selection when you are pushing pace. But yeah, it's something that we definitely want to do.
Is there anything that worries you about a 5-day layoff? I guess by tomorrow night about a 5-day layoff.
I mean, the normal rust stuff, but can't control that. I mean, we feel like we've had a really good week. Played enough live basketball throughout the week, I think, to keep us as sharp as we possibly can. It's going to come down to executing the game plan more than it is about anything else. So.
Where does Gobert fit in on that? Because they don't really have a matchup for him, and everybody plays 5 out some now. But
yeah.
He seems like such an X factor because he's so much different than what they have.
He's always an X factor for us. I mean, when he's playing at his best, he takes us to another level. There's no doubt about that. I mean, this is a small ball team. That's their superpower. It's what they go to when they need to become the best version of themselves. And you got to find ways to punish that, and certainly Rudy's activity on both ends of the floor and in and around the rim and getting offensive rebounds and all that stuff is going to be huge. So,
what advice do you give Rudy going into a matchup with Draymond, given that history?
I mean, listen, you just got to play basketball. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of physicality, some of it certainly on the edge of legality. Certainly there's going to be a lot of things said on the floor or outside the game itself. We got to focus and play basketball, and that's what we got to do. So.
They've been the number 1 defense since they made that trade.
Yeah.
Obviously they have Draymond in there, but what do they do specifically well on that end of the court?
I mean, their turnover generation is way up. I mean, it gives them some matchup flexibility, gives them another point of attack defender, high IQ guys that are playing off the ball and roaming in both Draymond and Butler, and those guys do a good job of really kind of intercepting passes, jumping your routes, and all this stuff. So it's primarily their defensive uptick has been primarily generated by their turnovers that they've been able to create. So.
Have you seen Steph really improve as a defender in his years in the league?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Steph is he has a high care factor. He puts the work in. He knows what he's trying to do. They're executing a scheme around him or to the game plan, and you could tell he's always dialed in. You're not just going to put Steph on an island and come up with bucket after bucket. He cares way too much for that.
Well, the way Steph plays, maybe a bit of a matchup issue last series for Mike and McKeel, but they found their niche in that series. But with the way Steph plays, we're going to need those two guys maybe specifically to help chase Steph around.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's not going to be one person's job alone to do that. We're lucky to have multiple high-level perimeter defenders. just the effort and the activity is only part one. You got to have the discipline and the diligence to execute all the things that they do to try to free them up. But it's not going to be just left to Jaden alone.
What didn't you do well against Steph in the regular season? Numbers are pretty good.
I mean, I thought he hurt us primarily, in transition or in early offensive situations when the floor is a little bit broken. I thought that we got hurt there. Generally they play a little bit more pick and roll against us than they do against other teams. They move to a pick and roll game, so we got to be a little bit better in our coverages there. So.
Chris, you guys were really good taking care of the ball against the Lakers.
Yeah.
Overall, is it just decision making? Is that what it comes down to, or like how do you see your guys?
I
taking
think
that seriously?
we've been doing a better job of taking care of the ball for the back half of the season. I think it starts, primarily with just the willingness to like get off of it and not, play as selfishly as we had played earlier in the season, and trying to play in a crowd. I mean, this is a team defensively that will draw a crowd, that will swarm you when you get to the paint. So, understanding. The willingness to get off of it is one. Understanding where the defense is helping from and where your outlets are. I thought we did a really good job in the LA series of doing that. We're going to have to recalibrate for these guys as their defense is very, very much different. And so I think those things are really important. And just having a higher care factor. I think sometimes, when we've struggled with turnovers, some of it's just sloppiness, so.
When Steve Kerr was coaching Ant, did you talk to him before, during, after, and just have any conversations about Ant?
I did. I talked to him before and talked to him during and after. So, I know he really enjoyed Ant, loves Ant's energy, what he can do for a team. Certainly knows him well. I think he's game planned against them pretty well since their experiences together. But I know they're very fond of each other. So.
Chris, it seemed like the team really thrived on people not picking them last series and being the underdogs. That might not necessarily be the case this time around. You guys are the betting favorites. Mm-hmm. What's kind of the mindset now coming into this one, and how do you keep that hunger and drive that you had at the beginning of last series?
Yeah, I don't worry too much about it with this team. I think this team's been pretty motivated for a while now. I think, when you're playing against a team who's won, 4 championships or whatever it is they've won, they still have, the remnants of a really good core, plus Butler. They believe they can win it. They believe they're going to be the favorites. I think, a lot of that is for the outside people to debate. I'm pretty confident in our ability to maintain our mental edge right now. So
having a guy like Dante who played for Golden State a couple of years ago in a playoff series, how valuable is that, having someone that's kind of been in that locker room, maybe worked with?
Yeah, I think his familiarity would definitely help us understanding what they're trying to do. Just a little bit of inside information on some guys personnel wise. I think that stuff always matters. So.
Chris, you've coached a lot of playoff games now yourself, since you got here. How have you changed as a coach, and you go through the playoffs and certain things, you can only learn through experience. Are you much different than when we had the Memphis series? Or?
Of course, everything's a learning experience. I think it's what's most important. I think whether it be our players, every situation is different. This is the first time we've had kind of a layoff and not known who we're going to play, how you approach those type of things. We're learning all the time. Any coach who sits up here and says that, they're not learning through these experiences is lying to you. I would imagine Steve Kerr just learned a lot about the things he needed to do differently in that last series. You could see that was an incredible series in terms of adjustments and style of play and having to alter the way that they played to try to win a game. So this is an ever-evolving process. No coach that sits here is ever going to tell you they have all the answers, and if they do, they're probably on their way to a loss. So.
Because Ant could score 40 or get a triple-double.
Yeah.
He would highlight a teammate for being the MVP.
Yeah.
What does that impact does that have?
Yeah, listen, Ant's long given credit to everybody around him. It's just what he does, and he does it genuinely. He understands that, he needs his teammates as much as anybody. They feed off his energy. He's their biggest promoters internally as well as externally. I think it's just a great sign of leadership. the great thing about him is it just comes naturally to him. You know, this is kind of how he is and who he is and how he's always been. You can see it. That's why, you know, he's always got a big group of friends, because he's fun to be around, and he's always about the group. You know, he's never trying to exclude anyone from the spotlight. He's always trying to draw people into the spotlight, and that's the mark of a true superstar with, you know, with grace.
The Golden State, I think, probably played with more pace early in the year out of necessity. But
Yeah.
if they do go back to that, trying to get you guys in that, what kind of challenge will that be for this team when obviously you've struggled like in Indiana and even Memphis in the first half of that
Yeah.
game? Just teams that really have trying to push up. And
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's been one of our inconsistencies all year. And, you know, if we want to win the series, we're going to have to be good at it. I'm sure they're going to definitely look to get up and down. They use the advanced pass probably better than anybody in the league, other than Indiana. You know, I think, you know, they've hurt us in transition. You know, we've looked at it. A lot of the games that have turned on our, you know, transition kind of mistakes, really, and games that we had under control or games that we thought we had all going our way, was really our transition game that let us down. So it's a major point of emphasis.
their numbers say that they played a little slower since getting Butler. Have you seen that?
Well, you know, it depends on how you're guarding, like
Sure.
how you're measuring, so like what pace really is. You know, like they do have long possessions, so you know, they make you guard them in the half court. It kind of plays the way I think every you know, coach would love his team to play. Like, they can quick strike you, and then if it's not there, they're gonna make you guard for 20 seconds of the shot clock. So.
So they're not looking less to get a transition.
No, yeah, they just, and I think, you know, if you compare it to like an Indiana or a Memphis, those guys are trying to score as early as possible every single time. These guys will happily carve you up in the half court too. So, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.